And we'll begin the news in Abuja, where the Judiciary Staff Union of Nigeria, JUNSON, has officially suspended its nationwide strike following a high-level meeting with representatives of the Chief Justice of Nigeria and other key stakeholders. The decision was confirmed in a communique jointly signed by all parties after hours of deliberation in Abuja on Tuesday. The communique outlined resolutions aimed at addressing the union's long-standing demands, which include the implementation of the 70,000 naira new minimum wage and its arrears, a 25 to 35% salary increase, and the payment of 5 months' wage awards. The parties agreed to a 1-month window to allow the federal government release funds to the judiciary, with a firm commitment that JUNSON's demands will be implemented immediately thereafter. The suspension of the strike comes after appeals from the Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Kudirat Kekereekun, the Minister of Labour, Mohammed Dangendine, and the Nigeria Labour Congress and other intervening stakeholders. Now, with the strike now suspended and court workers directed to resume duties on Wednesday, attention turns to the government's willingness and ability to fulfill its obligations within the agreed time frame. Moving away from that, moves to unseat President Bola Tinubu at the next general election, gaining momentum as an alliance led by former Vice President Atiku Abubakar pledged once again to close their ranks. This was when they gathered at the 60th birthday lecture of former Transportation Minister Rotimi Amechi. Amadin Uyi reports.
It was a gathering of Nigeria's political elites, many of them discontented with the performance of the current APC-led government. The 60th birthday lecture was organized by the former Minister of Transportation, Rotimi Amechi, with the theme, Weaponization of Poverty as a Means of Underdevelopment, a case study of Nigeria. Some presidents say that the challenges facing the country has become enormous, with Nigeria now facing a crisis.
For all those who are saying, oh, we have to be careful before the country, before we get into a crisis, please wake up. We're living with banditry, with Boko Haram, with this, and you're still saying that there will be a problem. What are we waiting for now? We are already there. We are already in crisis.
Keynote speakers at the lecture include the former governor of Kaduna State, Nasir El-Rufai, the former Vice President of Nigeria, Atiku Abubakar, and several other notable personalities. Despite commending Amechi for his birthday celebration, they said that Nigeria is in urgent need of a fix and informed those present of the need to band together to wrestle power from the current government.
We are all hungry. All of us are. If you're not hungry, I am. You may laugh. So for us, the opposition, if you want us to remove the man in power, we can remove him from this power.
Nigeria is in its biggest problem since 1940. We're together working, conspiring to build a coalition to take Nigeria back on track.
This particular government is weaponizing poverty. You may call me a conspirator, you may call me anything, and that is why we are in this alliance, to make sure we don't allow them to continue weaponizing policy.
The former Minister of Transportation also took a swipe at President Bola Tinubu, accusing him of being incapable of solving the nation's challenges.
President Tinubu said our profit has come to an end yesterday, or yesterday. Has anybody's diet changed? How many of you can buy a cup of garri at the rate? You know, the problem with Nigeria is, if you say the last president was very bad, the incoming one will be worse.
With talks about forming a coalition ahead of the upcoming 2027 general elections gathering momentum, these political heavyweights, according to Nigerian standards, are positive that they can form a consensus and give the ruling All Progressives Congress a run for their money. In Abuja for News Central, I am Amadin Uyi.
The Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, has blasted members of the coalition led by the former Vice President of Nigeria, Atiku Abubakar, over allegations of non-performance of the current administration and promoting poverty among citizens. Wike, during a media chat in Abuja, said that the allegations made during the 60th birthday celebration or birthday ceremony lecture of the former governor of Rivers State, Rotimi Amechi, with the theme Weaponization of Poverty as a Means of Underdevelopment, which held in the nation's capital, Abuja, is shameful, false, and an attempt to mislead Nigerians.
Everybody knows he was the most pompous speaker. Then he was reading law in London as a speaker, 1999 to 2007. He became a governor, 2007 to 2015. He was still reading law. How do you look at it? How do you insult Nigerians? How do you trivialize the issue of hunger or poverty? Why do you do that? You're insulting Nigerians. You joined Atiku. You joined Alpha because you are hungry.
Joining us live virtually is Okiki Adeniro. He's a lawyer based in Lagos. Okiki, many thanks for joining us. I mean, given the uptick in conversations around the 2027 elections, there must be just a need to sensitize the conversations, or sanitize the conversation, if you will, and avoid toxic language. Is it right to make this assumption?
Yeah, I believe it's very important for our politicians to be direct and to address issues, as they come. I believe that toxic languages and saying things about the other person should be left and taken out of the scene. We have so many issues in Nigeria that politicians can address, and I believe that it's at this point when we are close to 2027 and the issues are being raised. These are the issues that should be addressed, and not personal issues. And when things that are not going their way, they're trying to talk about what the issue has been, what the person has done. And also, I believe that it's a good assumption. It's very good for our politicians to stick to what is happening in the country rather than personal talks.
Now, election cycles are typically marked by mudslinging or smear campaigns, and often the real issues then become abandoned, right? What are the issues that should define the 2027 elections? I honestly don't know why we're having this conversation at 2025, but clearly the APC have set the tone, so let's just have it. What should be the key discussions ahead of the elections for 2027?
Well, the key discussions ahead of 2027 should be majorly how to address the economic issues we have right now. That's number one. Then number two, I believe that there's poverty in the land, right? How do we address that? How do we take that away from our country? And again, what our politicians should also look at, right, should be that let's put out both the plan and the purpose for each person coming out to contest, so that the electorate can look and be assured that when they get there, these things as been stated, we can hold you guys to it, rather than bringing up arguments or trying to talk the other person down and trying to raise the issues that someone cannot do it. Most of the people saying that there are issues and they are not being addressed, or that they are not doing, that the present government is not doing what they're supposed to do. They were once in government, right? And truthfully, some of them at the time also didn't do better. So at this time, I don't think it's just it's a kind of keketu calling the pot black. What should be done in this space and at this time should be addressing the issues Nigeria is going through, and not calling another person names. It's not what we should do as a country.
And what can the parties and candidates do to raise the level of conversations, as opposed to sliding into the usual fare of who said what about whom, before eventually the voters get bribed and then the polls are rigged, or beavers fail, or God forbid Nigerians don't show up at the polls?
Well, but basically, I believe what should be done by our politicians, right, are constructive criticisms, based on the plan and the purpose of each politician, each person, candidate for a political party, right? So when we have someone who has come out to contest, and the other party to, has decided to look at the plan and then look at the purpose which the other party has decided to put out, right? You can have another party criticize, and in that sense, there will be an healthy conversation rather than having a conversation that has to do with personal things. Instead of saying, this person at the time was in government, he didn't do his work, he's not capable of doing this, or probably talking about some other personal things. It should be what addresses the nation.
Right.
And conversations that should be something that is based on the plan and the purpose for the Nigerians.
Right. I mean, you make a very fair case. So Kiki Adeniro there, he's a lawyer based in Lagos, Nigeria, joined us following as the elections for 2027 is already setting the tone, and we're trying to get it back to sane conversations and the key issues that affect the everyday Nigerians. Once again, Okiki, I must say thank you for joining us. Okiki Adeniro, lawyer, joining us live from Lagos, which is gears now to Niger State, where more than 200 bodies have been recovered following the devastating flood in Mukwa local government area, according to the state's Commissioner for Humanitarian Affairs, Ahmed Suleiman. Now, Suleiman said recovery efforts are ongoing and that the full casualty figure remains unknown. Now, he confirmed that the Niger Delta, or rather the Niger State government, has activated emergency response measures and ordered the distribution of relief materials to displaced victims now sheltered in makeshift camps. Now, despite these efforts, victims have expressed frustration over poor living conditions and inadequate food supplies. Some residents have claimed that although they were photographed receiving food aid, they were not given anything. However, Governor Umar Bago's administration has displaced or dispatched trailers of rice, while the governor's wife has donated 50 million naira during a visit to the affected communities. Joining us now is News Central's correspondent Joshua Marai, who has been monitoring developments in Mukwa. He joins us live now. Joshua, many thanks for joining us. The news coming out of there is just heartbreaking and heart-wrenching. 200 and counting. Tell us, if I'm correct, you are at the spot where the water broke out and resorted into the flash floods that we saw. Tell me, what happened?
Well, I am, as you said rightly, I am live at the spot where the water broke out from. As you can see, that is a rail line and an accommodating fence demarcating another sector of an area to this particular area. As you can see, there's a large opening in between the fence housing the rail tracks. Well, it was not as big as this before. It was a simple covert that allowed a free flow of water. But subsequently, residents of this area started blocking that particular opening, trying to control the water from taking over their community. Well, few days back, it rained so heavily for some days, and the water accumulated. As you can see, that place is some sort of a valley-like surrounding, and it's a slopey surrounding that slopes to the fence. Unable to accommodate so much water that has accumulated behind the wall broke loose, and the entire area was flooded with the water that was accumulated behind this fence. So that is the reason for this tragic incident in Mukwa. It is man-made. This entire incident and the entire devastating thing is man-made. If they had not blocked this opening, we wouldn't have been here mourning these victims and crying about this loss that the communities have experienced for a while now.
And just looking at what's behind you there, Joshua, it looks like the sand, or rather the soil is made of clay. Is that the red soil that you're standing on? Can you tell me a bit of the texture, right, and the integrity of that wall that's behind you? Were you able to go close to the wall behind you? What's it made of?
Affirmative. I I was able to take a stroll around that particular area and even close to the edge of the brink there that collapsed. What that wall is particularly made of is nothing but clay, accumulated clay over time. And it is for sure that this particular rail line has been abandoned for so long. So it is just like a huge amount of clay accommodating the rail line. It is not strong enough for impact. No wonder they've not been using this particular rail line for a while now. So unable to hold the water and withstand the strength of the water behind it, it broke loose. So I can tell you for sure that the composition of that soil is nothing but clay and red sand.
Yes, indeed. I mean, Joshua, that sand, or what we're seeing, if my vision serves me correctly, that clay there, or the soil itself, it's very reminiscent of soil that has a clay composition, and that can only be the red sand. We see this as well in cities like Edo as well, and also Nok-Ala. That's really what it is. It really is clay. Joshua, I must say thank you so much for taking out the time to join us and just to give us those visuals live that we're seeing. Do we understand? Do we have a full picture? It's come to the end of the day. We know that it's 200 bodies and counting. Have they given us, is any word from the authorities as regards the recovery mission?
Well, the authority says that this is no longer a search and rescue mission. It is more or less a recovery mission where they are trying to recover as more dead bodies they can recover. They even told those who were affected that if by chance you find any of their family members being washed ashore of the banks or any area, they should go ahead and bury them, because it is no longer a search and rescue mission, because it is, however, not possible to see anyone who is surviving this incident days after being washed by the flooding. So basically, it is no longer a search and rescue mission. It is more or less a recovery mission. Well, they are handing out palliative and donor agencies are beginning to pitch their tent here to accommodate as much people they can accommodate. But on the part of the state government, they weren't prepared for this incident. It was a shock. This particular incident has not happened here for more than 3 decades. So they were in shock for this particular incident that happened here in Angwan Hausawa of Mokwa local government area of Niger State.
Joshua, many thanks. I appreciate you for doing this, and well done with all of the developments you've been giving us. Joshua Marai, there, correspondent live from Mokwa local government area in Niger State, following the devastating flash floods that have swept and killed over 200 and more and counting. Let's go on a short break. When we return, West African Examinations Council faces 100 billion naira lawsuit at that over midnight examinations. We'll bring you the details of this and plenty more after the break. Join us again. And you're welcome back. And now we continue with security matters. The Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Olufemi Oluyede, has relocated to Makurdi, the Benue state capital, over the incessant killings of innocent villagers by herders and militia groups. The killings, which are becoming almost a daily occurrence, have left many dead, several others injured and maimed, as well as several houses burnt, leaving many homeless. Nearly 100 persons have been killed in the past week alone. General Oluyede, accompanied by top officials from Army headquarters, arrived from Abuja on Tuesday to assess the deteriorating security situation firsthand. As part of immediate measures, he has ordered the deployment of additional troops across flashpoints in the state with a mandate to decisively engage and neutralize criminal elements responsible for the ongoing terror. He is also expected to chair high-level strategic meetings with operational commanders in Benue, reviewing current military operations and charting a new course for restoring security in the embattled state. A Lagos-based lawyer and human rights activist, Evans Ofeli, has filed a lawsuit against the West African Examinations Council, WAEC, and Nigeria's Minister of Education over the conduct of the 2025 West African Senior School Certificate Examination. Ofeli claims that the examination process subjected students to inhumane and unsafe conditions, alleging that students were forced to write exams in poorly lit and unsafe environments, with some sessions extending as late as 8 p.m. In the suit filed at the Federal High Court in Lagos, Ofeli argues that the May 2025 English language exam was held under unlawful and degrading circumstances. Ofweli is requesting the courts to order a reset of all affected exams under proper conditions and to award 100 billion naira in damages for the trauma and rights violation suffered by the students. And joining us in the studio live is Evans Ofweli himself, is a lawyer and education rights campaigner. Evans, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Good evening.
I must say, what prompted you to take this legal action against, WAEC and the Ministry of Education regarding the 2025 West Africa Senior Certificate Examination? And not JAMB. I'm surprised JAMB isn't in this lawsuit as well.
I sued JAMB before now.
Oh, you did?
Yes.
I take that back.
Yes, so the case is already ongoing. Now, I'm a social reform advocate. I do not believe that we should all be lethargic or foot drag when issues are going wrong in society. The lawyer is the first respondent to societal issue. And when we have difficulties or institutional breakdown like this, I mean, I know when I wrote WAEC, they will put and arrange the timetable in such a way that you have sufficient daylight, okay, to write the exam. Why make it that late to nightfall, and then you start to conduct that exam? So, I mean, the well-being and safety of our students and our citizens must not be sacrificed on the altar of ineptitude. An institution is supposed to function optimally. Because when you conduct exam in the night, what exactly are you teaching the students? Because that exam is to increase and test their mental faculty, okay, their inner faculty, to check whether they are ready to, advance educationally. Right. Okay, so it's supposed to be well organized. Apart from the question you are asking them, the conduct, the way you go about the logistical arrangement and all that, it needs to reflect that you are truly a body that is testing students' capacity and capability. If you do not have capacity, if you see battling with incompetency and all, you have no moral rectitude to put any student on that test. Putting them on that test in the night, how would they be able to recollect and give their best to the system? So that is wrong. And we must all be watchdogs. I've seen people on the internet talking about the lawyer went to court. Why must he go to court? Who's going to collect the money? The lawyer is looking for money. The lawyer is hungry. And when I respond, they say, you have no idea where I am in life. You've not come close at all. I am not doing this for any reason to earn money or to get gratification or whatsoever. It's because I live in Nigeria and I want my country to be great. Okay, this country did all it could to stop me. From when I wrote my JAMB to WAEC, there was a lot of problems. Sometimes you give people courses they do not apply for and things like that. Those are human rights issues. It's just that we don't take them serious.
So why not the crux of the problem be the education system in and of itself, right? Because if we've had incidents of JAMB, what we saw with the JAMB examination, we're now having the incident of WAEC itself, and also the strikes, and because WAEC might cite and tell you that this is a foundational problem with Nigeria. They had logistical issues, they had issues with printing, transportation issues that they could not readily solve because the Nigerian factor stepped into it. So why not go after the minister?
They give an excuse. No, the minister has joined the suit.
It's joined the suit.
The Minister of Education is joining the suit.
Okay.
We couldn't have just gone ahead without the Minister of Education that's supposed to supervise overall. Okay, the excuse they gave is that some of the exam papers leaked. Okay, but if you notice that, why is it that you are now taking that same test the same day? Why can't you postpone that paper to another date so that you can set fresh question? Even after the excuse,
right? The
alleged leaked paper was still the one that was presented to them that night because somebody sent it to me before the exam. So, and it's still the same paper. The same paper that leaked that they offered them that night to write.
So we're seeing all these leaks that were in the system and all this break in the system. What then are the legal grounds that are, that are underlying on what legal grounds are you, underlining or are you relying on in your lawsuit?
If you look at the Constitution, the fundamental rights. Okay, you look at the Child Rights Act from section 23, 24, 25 down, you see the rights of the Nigerian students. Okay, it's spelled out clearly what it should be. One of it is their right to education. Okay, their rights to safety. All that were compromised. Okay, and when you ask students to write exam at that time of the day, when will they get home? Are you not thinking about their safety getting home? So all that were violated by WAEC itself, and they have come out to apologize. But we are saying apology is not enough. Apology is not enough. You need to ameliorate the damage, the psychological trauma you cause these students, okay? And that is why the lawsuit is critical. It's critical to address the issue of human rights violation, okay? And damages must be paid to those students for that, because in civilized countries, if you take children through that kind of experience, okay, you know, you are damaging their future. You are putting them under serious risks and tension. Right. Okay, a country must not do that to its citizens, no matter what the situation, whether it is logistical breakdown or institutional failure or whatever it is. The country must ensure that the lives and property of its citizens must be safeguarded.
And what outcomes then are you hoping to achieve from this legal action, both for the affected students and, you know, the education system itself? Because I will tell you that also in my time, I don't know if we wrote all the way as late as 8 p.m., but examination papers were late. And even though I was in a boarding school, before we'd go, I mean, if you're waiting for 9 o'clock, they'd be like, papers are not ready yet, so go back to your classes. And you go, we're always happy we had enough time to read and jack, you know, before we could go back to the examination hall. But I do remember us writing as late as 5 p.m. We should have been done, say, 2, 3 p.m. and make it in time for dinner at the dining hall, or maybe make it in time for prep, afternoon prep ahead of your dinner.
5, 6 is still amenable, it's okay, but I mean, talking about 8 p.m. with torchlight and the rest of that, I mean, that it doesn't show any sense of seriousness. And you talk about to what end is this suit?
Yeah, the outcome.
Yeah, the outcome is first, legal action does a lot in society. When you put up a legal action against a respondent, first, it makes them to sit up, okay? It employs the services of a third party, the judicial system, that have the power to sanction, okay, to look at the case and proffer redress. Okay, whichever way the redress goes is not our business. What is important is that it's on record, okay, that at some point in our history, you know, students who had their rights violated, who went to court through a counsel, and whether the court grants the prayers fully or partly or whatsoever, it is a way to advance society, and it is a way to document judicial precedents. So it has a lot of advantages. Okay, so but for those who are criticizing that action, that I cannot help the huge deposit of their ignorance. Right. And that's not my duty. My duty is to ensure that I do what is required of me, because I live in this society, and I want to see this society progress. And that is why that action was right. It was not for any other reason, purely altruistic.
Yeah, Evans, I must say thank you. Evans Ufeli, he's a lawyer, and he has slammed WAEC and the education minister with $100 billion lawsuit regarding the failure of the WAEC English language examination for 2025. Once again, Evans, many thanks for coming. I appreciate you for doing this. We switch gears now, as in a decisive move towards fostering inclusive and sustainable economic growth, stakeholders in Abuja have expressed the need to build trust between citizens, institutions, and the nation's financial ecosystem. Now, this was during a high-level workshop which was held at the State House in Abuja, where they expressed the need to empower underserved communities and drive inclusive participation and growth in the country. News Central's correspondent Bettina Onweli has the details.
The workshop focused on enhancing trust as a central pillar for achieving financial and economic inclusion across Nigeria. Participants critically reviewed the draft national framework, identifying priority actions and collaborative strategies needed to build confidence in financial systems. They also expressed the need to empower underserved communities and drive inclusive participation in the country.
The idea behind this whole thing starts with the renewed hope agenda of Mr. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. If you look at the component of renewed hope, virtually all the 8 points agenda, all of them, they affect economic and financial inclusion. But more specifically, we have access to capital and inclusivity.
The technical advisor to the President on economic and financial inclusion in the Office of the Vice President emphasized the urgent need to rebuild trust between citizens, institutions, and the nation's financial ecosystem.
We believe that for people to come and be financially included, to come into the formal financial sector, they have to build confidence and trust in the system. Recently, there has been issues around cybersecurity issues, 419, trust issue, and even lack of knowledge in terms of capacity building. Poor redress mechanisms. If a consumer loses money, if you put your money, your POS, maybe your 10,000 naira or hang or even 1,000, to somebody 1,000 is equivalent to 10 million to another person, right? So because of that, there's a need for us to ensure that all the instrumentality of government, they are on board, they are doing their work in order to restore the trust of the last mile, the poor and vulnerable Nigerians in this.
Stakeholders welcomed the consultative approach of the review process and reaffirmed their commitments to implementing a framework that is both inclusive and locally grounded.
I will tell you, CBN has done so much in ensuring that consumers of the banking sector get remediation. I think where the issue is that every complaint, the consumer push to CBN, which is the reason I said the workshop today is apt, bringing together various regulators from different industries, even beyond the financial system. So here, financial literacy will do a lot, which is one area CBN is focused on under the financial inclusion.
The final version of the National Framework on Strengthening Trust for Sustainable Economic and Financial Inclusion is expected to be presented to the Federal Executive Council in the coming weeks. In Abuja, for News Central, Bettina Nwili.
The United Nations says 5 aid workers have been killed in an attack on a convoy headed for Sudan's besieged city of Al Fasher, where famine looms after more than 2 years of war. The latest assault on humanitarian aid in the country ravaged by conflict was reported as the United Nations announced a milestone of 4 million Sudanese having fled across borders since the war began in April of 2023. The 15-truck convoy organized by the World Food Programme and UNICEF came under attack near Al Koma village in North Darfur State, the UN agency said in a joint statement. Ugandan military officials say 2 suspected terrorists were killed on Tuesday after an explosive device they were carrying detonated during an interception in the capital, Kampala. According to military spokesperson Chris Magezi, the explosion occurred as security operatives moved in on the suspects. Local media reports that the blast took place near the Munyonyo Martyrs Shrine in the southern part of the city, where crowds had gathered to mark Martyrs' Day, an annual event commemorating Christians martyred in 19th century. The suspects are believed to be members of the Allied Democratic Forces, a rebel group based in the Democratic Republic of Congo and linked to the Islamic State. The group was behind multiple deadly bombings in Uganda in 2021. Critics are saying the recent redeployment of Floyd Shivambu from Secretary General of the Jacob Zuma MK party to Parliament signals internal tensions, strategic shifts, and unresolved questions about the party's future leadership structure in South Africa. His removal follows a visit to self-proclaimed prophet Shepherd Bushiri in Malawi and deepening factional divisions within the party's upper ranks. Now this comes after MK party president Jacob Zuma and the national officials met on Monday to reflect on the state of the organization and specifically address Shivambu's conduct. Joining us now to further discuss this is a political analyst, Convince Mulungo. and he joins us live now. Comrades, many thanks for joining us. I mean, what do you think are the main internal tensions we're seeing within the MK party that has now led to Floyd's redeployment from Secretary General to Parliament?
Thank you for welcoming me, Judith. I'm sure I'm audible enough so that I can proceed.
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, the redeployment came after Umkhonto we Party had a party's reflection on how the political party or the movement is run. But I don't think you could say that's mainly what is happening. I think there's something deep on that one. It's a personal matter. If you recall, Jacob Zuma and Floyd Shivambu, they are coming from far from back then in 2012 when Julius Malema and Floyd Shivambu, they were expelled from ANC by the leadership of Jacob Zuma. And it happened that they went to form their own party called the EFF. And that party was in the forefront of saying Zuma must fall, pay back the money, and all those campaigns that they were raising against Jacob Zuma when he was still the president. I think it's a personal matter that it's been happening there in MKP, just that they are using the organization to fight their personal battles.
Do you believe Jacob Zuma is still holding a grudge against Floyd for his role in Zuma's removal as president?
Everyone who knows Jacob Zuma, they can tell you that Jacob Zuma doesn't forget. If there's something that he doesn't do, he doesn't forget. He always pay his revenge. So this is a revenge on Floyd Shivambu. And I think this is not just going to end here. They're trying to neutralize him. As much as he was possessing too much influence in that organization, they cannot just remove him from the organization. They want to neutralize him. And the only way to neutralize him is to take the strategic position of the Secretary General and send him to Parliament. And in Parliament, it's not going to be even a chief whip. There is a chief whip in Parliament, which he will have to succumb to. So automatically, they're not going to delegate anything to him in Parliament. They're neutralizing him so that after some time, they're going to kick him out and no one will even notice that Floyd was ever in MKP.
Let's also talk about family dynamics, shall we? How significant are the family dynamics like Duduzile's Zuma's comments in shaping political perception with the MK party and just the dynamics of how this looks for the nation?
I think they failed to criticize Ududuzile Zuma from the beginning. Whenever she was doing that, they said she's going to go for a disciplinary. She never went to a disciplinary. Even if, let's just say, Floyd is kicked out because of going to Bushira's church and all those kind of things, which is something that I don't believe, by the way, even though he had to consider that when he was going there, because there's a constitution in Umkhonto party, and he broke section 3, of the Code of Conduct, which says you can't take any international trip without the approval of the National High Command. And that's what exactly he did when he was going to Shepherd Bushira's church. By the way, this is not the first thing that he did that is against the Constitution. So we can blame Duduzile at some point for whatever that she did to Floyd and all those kind of things. But we cannot also blame Duduzile, because Duduzile was saying this thing because the constituencies on the ground, which Duduzile relates so much with than Floyd Shivambu, was complaining, and they always go to Duduzile Zuma to complain. So Duduzile Zuma was doing what is right for the party and what is right for the masses on the ground. Because remember, a political party, it's a political party because of the voters. And when the voters are speaking, they ought to be listened. And Duduzile Zuma was doing exactly what the members on the ground wanted. Because Floyd Shivambu is doing whatever this thing. The constitution of theirs in section 3, in subsection, it starts from subsection F. It talks about It talks about this thing of carrying a gun and carrying a firearm on a public place. It says you must not carry any weapon. Floyd did that. It says you must not lie to masses. He lied to masses that he formed the EFF alone, which is something that is not true. I think it's a sign of saying we're tired of you and you're no longer welcome to the party.
So let's just see how it plays out in the next couple of months, shall we, with the MK party. Convis, I must say thank you for taking out time to join us. Convis Mulungu, he is a political analyst, giving us a bit of insight with the political shake-up or the shake-ups in the MK party, which is the opposition party in South Africa. Let's go on a short break, shall we? When we return, it's going to be sports. Stay with us. And welcome back. Nigerian sprinter Favour Ofeli has withdrawn from the 2025 Racers Grand Prix, scheduled for June 7th at the Kinson's National Stadium. Ofeli's spot in the women's 200-meter event has been filled by Bahamians Antonique Strachan and American Diaja Stevens. Now, 22-year-old Ophili, who recently set a world record in the 150-meter at the Adidas Atlanta City Games, is likely resting to avoid injury ahead of the World's Athletics Championships in September. Now, despite her absence, the event will feature strong competition, including Nigerian hurdler, which is Toby Amusan, who trains with Jamaica's Racers Track Club and is returning to form after a training setback. Amusan is expected to headline the 100-meter hurdles, ensuring a high level of excitement for the meet. Well, all the best to the ladies, and that's all we can take at this hour. But before we go, let's take another look at some of the major stories. The Nigerian judiciary workers have suspended nationwide strike after closed-door negotiations at DSS headquarters in Abuja. The Chief of Army Staff has relocated to Benue State as attacks by armed herders have claimed nearly 100 lives in 1 week. And just outside the shores of Nigeria, the 5 aid workers have been killed in attack on UN aid convoy in Darfur, Sudan. Now, do remember they can send us your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number now showing on the screen. And while you're at it, make sure to follow us on social media. We're at News Central TV on all social media platforms. You can always watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422 or GoTV now. Find us as channel 23, Star Times channel 274, Apple TV, and you can stream us live 24/7 on YouTube. That only means you can take us everywhere you go. Many thanks for watching. I am Judith at TV.